Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 90 of Journey into Legends. Today we'll be continuing the Enemy Lines duology with Book 2, Rebel Stand by Aaron Alston. Rebel Stand is the 12th book in the New Jedi Order, and it was released in 2002. I absolutely loved the first book in this duology, and of course I've been loving the entire New Jedi Order series overall, so I'm really excited to continue. Without further ado, let's read and review. A lot of this book was dedicated to the Coruscant infiltration mission set up in the previous book, which sees Luke, Mara, Tahiri, Dany, and the Wraiths doing reconnaissance on Coruscant. Going into this book, I had heard a few things about this plotline, mainly that it was pretty weak and felt very foreign to the series. I can definitely understand if somebody feels that way, but personally I had a lot of fun with this storyline. I thought post-Star by Star Coruscant was really fun and eerie to explore, and I enjoyed the cast of characters that we followed on this mission. And of course we have to talk about Lord Nyax, also known as Iricus Marin, who served as the main villain of these chapters. I thought conceptually this was a really wacky storyline, but I kinda dug it. It felt straight out of the Bantam era. I also really loved all of the horror elements, such as the scenes of Lord Nyax pursuing Vicky Shesh. And speaking of Vicky Shesh, it was so great to see her finally die. Anyways, my only major gripe with this storyline was the final fight between Lord Nyax and the Jedi. I thought the giant, weird, Force rubble storm felt too campy and out there. Overall, I had a lot of fun with the plotline on its own, but I don't think it contributed to the larger story of the book or the series as a whole. In the last book, we saw the beginning of a secret resistance group established by Wedge and Luke within the New Republic, and in this book, Han and Leia travel to different planets to set up resistance bases. First, they go to Vanix and work to prevent the election of a Yuuzhan Vong appeaser, and then they go to the planet Afran 4, disguised as pirates, and actually end up getting arrested by the Peace Brigade. Overall, this was a very weak plotline to me. These two missions were so boring and contributed almost nothing to the book. And finally, the Battle of Borleias came to an end in this book, with the New Republic making a fighting retreat from the planet. I was honestly super surprised how little this battle was featured in the book. It was the central focus of the previous book, but here, it honestly felt like a bit of an afterthought and didn't get much page time until the last few chapters of the book. However, what we did get was a lot of fun. Wedge flying as Black Moon 11 was a lot of fun. Jaina continuing her schemes as the Trickster Goddess was fun as always, but easily the best moment for me was Operation Emperor's Spear, where the Lusankya rammed into the Vong world ship, killing Chul Kang Law. This, along with Operation Emperor's Hammer, the orbital bombardment from the previous book, made the Lusankya's last battle an epic one. Overall, this book ended up really disappointing me. I absolutely loved the first book of this duology and its focus on the Battle of Borleias, but this book felt a lot less focused and had much weaker plotlines that didn't feel very connected to the rest of the book or the entire series. Han and Leia's plotline was very boring. The Coruscant mission, while a lot of fun, didn't accomplish much in the grand scheme of things, and the Battle of Borleias was too short and felt like an afterthought. If I had to use one word to describe this book, I'd use the word sloppy. Alright, next we have Star Wars Tales issue 15, which has 6 stories, starting with Sandstorm, in which a young Luke gets lost in a sandstorm and meets a young boy named Annie. The two of them wander the desert, find shelter in a cave, and even fight a crate dragon. However, Luke wakes up and realizes that it was all a dream. This one was just absolutely fantastic. Luke getting a Force vision of Annie, who, of course, was supposed to be young Anakin, was super cool, and the whole story had a very ethereal feeling to it. A phenomenal little story. Anyways, our next story is called First Impressions, which follows Leia on a visit to Coruscant shortly before she's set to take her father's place in the Senate. On this visit, she sees firsthand the ugliness of the Empire, and she meets the Emperor face to face for the first time and experiences his evil. Overall, this was a pretty good story. It's always great to see a young Leia during her early political career, and stories like these really make me sad that we never got A.C. Crispin's Young Leia trilogy. Next, we have Falling Star, which follows Luke and Biggs as they get tickets on a freighter to take a short trip to a nearby moon. But when the freighter's shields fail and the freighter starts burning up in the atmosphere, Luke goes to help the pilot with repairs. However, with all the damage the freighter sustained, the pilot brings the freighter back down to Tatooine, and their trip to the moon is cancelled. Overall, this was definitely the weakest story so far, but it wasn't too bad. It's still cool to see adventures with a young Luke and Biggs. Next, we've got Do or Do Not, which takes place right after Return of the Jedi. Basically, Luke has doubts about his future, and Leia attempts to reassure him. The story is really short, but the art is absolutely horrendous, and the dialogue is really weird. This one was not great. Next, we have Slippery Slope, where a bounty hunter arrives on Dagobah looking for Luke. Luke ends up confronting the bounty hunter, and knowing the hunter's reputation will be ruined, Luke lets him go. This was a really dumb story. First of all, I don't know why Luke would let the bounty hunter leave. Not only is the secrecy of Dagobah more important, but the bounty hunter is also a droid. Secondly, the story treats the droid like he's a living person. There's a point where the droid is pleading for his life and tells Luke he has a mother and 8 kids. This was just a really stupid, confusing story with really mediocre art. Anyways, our last story is called Lucky Stars, which follows Leia as she infiltrates a casino to destroy a rebel holocube before it gets into the hands of the Empire. And this one was just really boring and dumb. The other characters were extremely forgettable, the story was unoriginal, and the art wasn't great. Anyways, this was a pretty decent issue of Tales. The last few stories weren't very good at all, but I enjoyed the others, especially Sandstorm, which I thought was spectacular. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for my next review where I'll be reading Traitor by Matthew Stover. See ya.